And as I said earlier, we find that there's improved robustness and stability. So higher degree of the distribution when we look at other client studies, either at the same time or later. And we, as I alluded to earlier, we think this is, intuitively, and I haven't sat down and kind of worked out the math, but intuitively, the absence of distributional assumptions of the typing of the CART algorithm and the nature of the clusters that we're trying to predict, and the fact that they're just highly nonlinear functions of the variables, it just makes sense that this would work better. This is an example of what we call a pen and paper typing tool. So this is one of the ways in which we have been able to help clients in their ongoing research. This would be in Excel, and you would, you probably can't even read this, but basically we ask people a bunch of questions here, and this is a chocolate example. So it's questions like, eating chocolate is one of my greatest pleasures, and I feel guilty when I eat too much candy, and I always have gum with me no matter where I am. And people respond to these statements on a 6-point scale from agree to completely to disagree completely. And then based on these answers, they get typed into a cluster. And as I said before, this can be dynamic, so that rather than having to take people through all, I think, 26 statements, you might just have to take them through 10, and then you know what segment they're in some of the time. So this is very easy. Pretty much anybody can use it. The main disadvantage of CART is the time it takes to build them. So the standard typing tools, as I said before, are basically automated. As far as I can tell, it takes our suppliers no time to make them. They just make them and they send them to us. They charge us a little bit of money, but it's no big deal. But the building process for the CART tools can be, sometimes it just takes an hour, but sometimes it can be iterative. It's highly customized. It can be adapted for different purposes. So it just takes more time. And, and time is money. So, but on the other hand, and so you don't have to just build the tree, but then you have to build the actual tool. So you have to take the code and translate it into something that's usable, like this pen and paper example in Excel. However, our perspective is that if you're going to be using typing tools on an ongoing basis for consumer research, if we're going to be using them certainly with our clients, then it's worth every second, every penny, because the upfront cost of building a typing tool that works is worth its weight in gold. It far outweighs the upfront cost of building it. So I'm going to take you through just a brief case study to give you a sense of the way in which this works and the types of results that we're able to provide to our clients through using CART rather than discriminant analysis. So this is an example from financial services, and this was a typing tool that was done using discriminant analysis. It's real data. It's just disguised. And there were 6 segments, and you can see the predictive success is the top row. So percentage of people classified into segment 1 by the typing tool who were actually in segment 1. Purity. In the next row is percentage of people classified into segment who were classified into segment 1 who actually did come from segment 1. And then you can see the number of people predicted in and the percentage of people predicted in the segment versus the actual percentage of people predicted in the segment. Segments 1 and 2 were the target segments, so they're the most important in terms of getting the model right. And this model looks good. Usually if you see things in the low 70s or above, you're in good shape in terms of predictive success. And there was a holdout testing done on 20% of the sample, and that performed well, so everything looked good. And we seemed like we were ready to go. Then work was done. So the left-hand side chart is that's the percentage of consumers that were in each of the 6 segments from our original data, so demand landscape data. And then what we did was we took the typing tool and we applied it to 4 other data sets subsequently. And what we found was there was some consistency, but where we really ran into trouble was with this segment 1, because as I said, this was a target segment. So if you go and you tell a client, 14% of your market is in segment 1, and that's the target segment for you, and then they go and they do other work, and it's coming up as 3% of the market, they start to get nervous. They say, is this really a big enough opportunity for us? And rightly so. And so we were worried about that, and there were a couple of different possibilities. One was that the sample from the original study was not representative of the population, and so when we went to replicate the model, it was looking different. And another possibility was that the typing tool was problematic. So rather than throw up our hands, we built a cart-based typing tool. I'm sorry? Oh, I don't remember that off the top of my head, but it would have been at least 1,000, and typically it will be a few thousand in each study. So it's big enough that you've got at least 100, 150 people in each of the segments if the distribution from the original study looks right. But sorry. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so that's here. So it was, just eyeballing it, it's pretty similar. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So I'm going to look at the cart-based typing tool. So a couple of things to mention. The overall predictive success was increased to 86%. But and for segments 1 and 2, the target segments, the predictive success went up even more. Only one of the segments 3, saw a drop in the overall predictive success. So that, on the face of it, that looks pretty good. But again, at the end of the day, we want to be able to look at those other client studies and see what did the results look like. So again, on the left is the segment sizes from the original study, and then on the right is a summary of the results from the other studies. And what we found was, in the original typing tool, we had 6% on average coming from segment 1. In the revised typing tool, it was 11% on average. The range was 10 to 13%. And so in general, we see results with the new typing tool that are more in line with the original data set. And the ranges across those 4 studies are all, it's close enough that we felt much better about not only about the new typing tool, but that the original study itself was not flawed in terms of the sample composition. If we hadn't been able to improve the consistency between the original study and the typing tool in terms of the size of the segments, then we would have started to worry about the integrity of the original sample. So that was good news for us, and it was good news for the client, and it gave them more confidence in going ahead with the recommendations that we had made as a result of the work that we did for them.